Every year, millions of people with weak kidneys are told to eat more vegetables. But what if some of those vegetables are quietly pushing them closer to dialysis? What if the healthy plate you're so proud of is actually overworking your kidneys day after day? Picture two friends in their early 70s, Mary and John, both hearing the same sentence from their doctor. Your kidneys are a bit weak. Eat healthy. Eat more vegetables. Mary goes home, asks careful questions, and learns which vegetables are gentle on her kidneys and how to cook them more safely. John goes home, turns on the TV, follows online trends, drinks superfood juices, and piles on whatever the world calls clean and detox. A few years later, Mary's kidney numbers are fairly stable, and her doctor still sounds hopeful. But John's creatinine is climbing, his eGFR is dropping, his potassium is running high. Now he's hearing scary words like dangerous heart rhythm, and we might need to talk about dialysis. Same age. Same starting point, same advice. So what's the difference here? In many cases, it's not that one person tried harder or cared more. The difference is a hidden variable most people are never told about. Which vegetables you choose, how much you eat, and how you prepare them when you have chronic kidney disease. Vegetables are not one big, safe, green category. Some are gentle on your kidneys, even when they're struggling. Others, especially in large portions, dried forms, or juices, can quietly overload your potassium and oxalate budget for the entire day. Today on the Kidney Keys, we're going to walk through this together in a calm, practical way. Not to scare you away from vegetables, but to give you a kind of veggie survival guide so you can still enjoy real food, real flavor, and real comfort while giving your kidneys the best chance you can. Before we talk about specific vegetables, let me ask you this. Have you ever walked out of a doctor's appointment with that vague advice to eat more vegetables and thought, okay, but which ones are actually safe for my kidneys? Has anyone ever handed you a list of high potassium foods without really explaining why those vegetables are on the list or what to eat instead? If that sounds familiar, you are absolutely not alone. Down in the comments, if you feel comfortable, share your experience. Have you ever had to stop eating a food you thought was incredibly healthy because your labs started changing? Have you ever been shocked to find out that something advertised as kidney cleansing or detoxifying was actually too much for your kidneys? Your story could be exactly what another senior needs to hear today, so they feel less confused and less afraid. Now, just so we're clear, this video is educational. It's here to help you have smarter, more confident conversations with your healthcare team. Everyone's kidney function, labs, medications, heart health, and diabetes control are different. What's okay for someone in stage 2 might be dangerous for someone in stage 4. So please treat this as a guide, not a prescription. Your nephrologist and your renal dietitian are the ones who can say, yes, that works for you, or no, that one is a little too risky at your stage. With that in mind, let's set the rules of the game for veggies and kidneys. When we look at vegetables through a kidney lens, we keep bumping into 3 big troublemakers: potassium, oxalates, and added sodium and phosphorus. Potassium is the first one. Your body needs potassium. It helps your muscles contract and your heart keep its rhythm. Healthy kidneys filter extra potassium out of your blood and keep things stable. But when your kidneys are weaker, they can fall behind. Potassium can build up, and when it gets too high, that's called hyperkalemia. Sometimes it's silent. Sometimes it shows up as weakness or strange feelings in your chest. In severe cases, it can disrupt your heart rhythm and become an emergency. Oxalates are the second. Oxalates are natural compounds found in many plant foods. In small amounts, and in people with fully functioning kidneys, they usually don't cause trouble. But in large amounts, especially in someone who has had kidney stones, oxalates can combine with calcium and form sharp crystals called calcium oxalate stones. Those crystals can cut and clog the delicate structures inside your kidneys like tiny shards of glass. Then we have sodium and phosphorus. Too much sodium can drive up your blood pressure and make you hold on to fluid, which your struggling kidneys then have to deal with. Phosphorus, especially the kind added to processed foods, can build up in people with CKD, weakened bones, and damaged blood vessels. While vegetables themselves are usually not the biggest phosphorus problem, certain preparations, sauces, and processed veggie products can add more to the load than you realize. So, as we go through these 8 vegetables, we're going to pay attention to how they affect your potassium and oxalate budget, and how cooking methods and portion sizes can make them more or less risky. Think of your kidneys as living on a daily budget. You have a potassium budget, you have an oxalate budget. Some foods spend a little of that budget, some spend a lot, and a few can practically spend the whole thing in one go. Your job, with your healthcare team, is to decide what is worth spending that budget on. Let's start with a favorite in clean eating circles, the artichoke. If you watch health programs or read wellness blogs, you'll see artichokes held up as a liver hero, detoxifying, full of antioxidants. That may be true for the liver, but for your kidneys, 1 cup of cooked artichoke hearts can carry as much potassium as a medium banana. For someone in stage 1 or 2 CKD with normal potassium, that might still be okay in a small portion, maybe a quarter to half a cup tucked into a dish. In stage 3, artichokes really need to be treated as a garnish, just a spoonful mixed into a larger salad or pasta full of lower potassium veggies. In stage 4 or 5, or when your potassium is regularly high, artichokes become more of a rare guest, something you only invite onto your plate if your nephrologist or dietitian says, yes, there's room for a tiny amount today. They don't need to vanish forever, but they should step back from center stage. Now, let's turn to celery, especially celery juice. A few crunchy sticks of celery in a salad or with a safe dip can be okay for many people with early CKD and normal labs. The trouble starts when we run stalk after stalk through a juicer. Celery juice concentrates the potassium and the oxalates while stripping out the fiber. That tall glass that looks so fresh and harmless may actually deliver a big mineral bomb to your bloodstream. For someone in stage 3, 4, or 5 CKD, or anyone with a history of calcium oxalate stones, that's a big problem. The safer move is simple. Eat your celery in its whole form, in modest portions, and skip the big jugs of juice unless a kidney-specialized dietitian has specifically cleared it for you. From celery, let's slide over to eggplant. Eggplant shows up in so many delicious dishes: baked casseroles, grilled slices, rich spreads like baba ganoush. On the surface, eggplant looks like a friendly choice. It's not as dramatically high in potassium as some other vegetables, and in small portions, it can fit into many kidney-friendly plans. But the way we cook eggplant can quickly turn it into a troublemaker. Eggplant acts like a sponge for oil and salt. Think about breaded and fried eggplant, or slices soaked in salty marinades, or creamy dips loaded with sodium. For someone with CKD who also has high blood pressure or heart issues, all that extra sodium and fat can be a serious hit. In stage 1 or 2, grilled or baked eggplant in small amounts, brushed lightly with oil and seasoned more with herbs than with salt, can still have a place. By stage 3, it's wise to treat eggplant as an occasional side rather than a main course, keeping portions modest and preparation as simple and low sodium as possible. In stage 4 and 5, you may only have a bite or two here and there, if your dietitian agrees, and it should be prepared without heavy salt and rich sauces. The key with eggplant is not just the vegetable itself, but the company it keeps, the oil, the salt, the spreads and dips it often comes in. Now think about a leafy green that looks so wholesome and vibrant, Swiss chard. Those deep green leaves with bright red or yellow stems look like they're bursting with health, and in many ways, they are. But for kidneys, Swiss chard is a double-edged sword. It is very high in potassium and also high in oxalates. That means even a moderate serving can spend a big chunk of both your potassium and oxalate budget at once. For someone with healthy kidneys, or very early CKD, with no stone history and normal labs, a small serving now and then may be acceptable. But as you move into stage 3, Swiss chard usually becomes a use very sparingly food. And by stage 4 or 5, many kidney specialists prefer that it be avoided altogether or used only in tiny amounts, if at all. Boiling the leaves in a large pot of water and then throwing away the water can help pull out some potassium. But because of the very high levels, it still tends to be a risky choice for vulnerable kidneys. If you love leafy greens, this is one place where switching to lower potassium options in small portions and rotating your greens can be kinder to your kidneys than heaping plates of Swiss chard. Now let's talk about something many people think of as a dessert ingredient, not a vegetable, but it belongs in this list: rhubarb. Those tart stalks show up in pies, jams, and sauces, often paired with strawberries and lots of sugar. Rhubarb is extremely high in oxalates. In fact, both the stalks and especially the leaves carry so much oxalic acid that the leaves are actually considered toxic. For someone with a history of kidney stones, rhubarb can be like lighting a match near dry grass. Even a relatively small serving in a dessert can add a big load of oxalate to your system. For most people with CKD, especially if you've ever passed a calcium oxalate stone, rhubarb falls into the category of why risk it? There are so many other ways to enjoy a tart or fruity dessert without leaning on rhubarb. If you're in the very earliest stage of CKD and you absolutely love rhubarb, that's a specific conversation for your dietitian: how much, how often, and whether it fits at all. But for stage 3 and beyond, it is usually much safer to simply skip it. From tart stalks, let's move to cozy bowls of winter squash. On a chilly evening, it's easy to picture roasted butternut or acorn squash with spices, or creamy squash soup at a holiday dinner. Those dishes feel so warm and natural that many people never suspect they're running into potassium trouble. Varieties like acorn and butternut are quite high in potassium. If you are in stage 1 or 2 with normal labs, a half-cup side once in a while may fit, especially if you aren't eating a lot of other high potassium foods that day. By stage 3, many dietitians recommend being much more cautious, shrinking portions, and choosing lower potassium alternatives more often. And here's where a bit of good news comes in. Not all winter squash are created equal. Spaghetti squash is much lighter on potassium. Zucchini and yellow summer squash are also gentler choices. You can roast spaghetti squash and twirl the strands on your fork like pasta, or bake zucchini in comforting casseroles and still get that cozy, home-cooked feeling without hitting your potassium budget so hard. If you miss those holiday flavors, think about recipes that use mostly spaghetti squash or zucchini with just a tiny sprinkle of higher potassium squash for flavor and color, if your dietitian says that's okay. Now let's revisit rutabaga, a root vegetable that often appears as the healthy cousin of the potato in low-carb or diabetes-friendly recipes. On the surface, rutabaga looks like a smart swap. It has fewer carbohydrates than a potato, some fiber, and a pleasant earthy flavor. But for your kidneys, rutabaga carries a fairly high potassium load and a meaningful amount of oxalate. That means a regular serving asks your kidneys to handle 2 challenges at once. In stage 1 or 2 with normal potassium and no stone history, a small portion once in a while might still be okay, especially if your main concern is blood sugar. By stage 3, however, rutabaga starts to fall into that "is this really worth the mineral cost?" category. By stage 4 or 5, most people will be much better served by choosing something lower in both potassium and oxalate. A favorite alternative is cauliflower mash. Cauliflower is usually lower in potassium, low in oxalate, and can be steamed or boiled until soft, then mashed with a kidney-friendly fat, a bit of safe milk or milk alternative if allowed, and plenty of herbs or garlic. You still get the comfort of a creamy mashed side without putting your kidneys under the same strain rutabaga might create. Finally, we arrive at one of the most beloved healthy carbs out there, the sweet potato, especially in dried form. Many people have heard, skip white potatoes, switch to sweet potatoes. They're a superfood. And yes, sweet potatoes are rich in fiber and vitamins. For people with normal kidney function, they can be an excellent choice. But for those with CKD, especially stages 3 through 5, a typical baked sweet potato with the skin on can be very high in potassium and also contribute phosphorus and oxalates. One average-sized sweet potato can use up a large portion of a potassium-restricted day's allowance in a single serving. And then we have dried sweet potato snacks. When you dry a food, you remove water and concentrate everything else. That means dried sweet potatoes are like sweet potato potassium bombs in a small, chewy package. For someone with advanced CKD, eating dried sweet potato regularly is like repeatedly slamming the gas pedal on their potassium levels. If you are in stage 1 or 2 with normal potassium and no stone history, and your doctor hasn't restricted potassium, you may be able to enjoy small portions of sweet potato once in a while, especially if you use a technique called double boiling. That method involves peeling the sweet potato, cutting it into small pieces, soaking them in water, then boiling in a large pot of water, draining, adding fresh water, and boiling again before draining and serving. This process removes some of the potassium, making the sweet potato less intense. Even then, it should be treated as an occasional treat, not an everyday staple. By stage 3, it's time to sit down with your dietitian and honestly ask, is sweet potato worth the risk for me? For most people in stage 4 or 5, and especially for those on dialysis, dried sweet potato snacks are essentially off the table unless your kidney team has specifically made room for them and is watching your labs closely. At this point, you might be thinking, is there anything left I can enjoy without being terrified of every bite? The answer is yes. This is where we shift from fear to strategy. There are many vegetables that, in normal portions and with your doctor's approval, are often friendlier to the kidneys. Things like spaghetti squash, zucchini, yellow summer squash, green beans, cabbage, carrots, bell peppers in modest amounts, and lettuces such as romaine, iceberg, or butterhead. They tend to be lighter in potassium and oxalates than powerhouses like Swiss chard, big bowls of spinach, or large servings of acorn squash. How you cook your vegetables also matters. Boiling vegetables in a plenty of water, then draining and throwing the water away, can pull out some potassium. Steaming removes less. Roasting keeps most of the potassium in the food. So, from a kidney perspective, if you're going to eat a higher potassium vegetable and your team says it is okay, occasionally, boiling and draining first is often wiser than roasting. And whenever possible, whole foods are safer than concentrated forms. That means whole vegetables instead of juices and fresh or frozen instead of dried, especially for high potassium options. In some situations, if your doctor or dietitian approves, pairing higher oxalate foods with a source of calcium in the same meal can help bind some of the oxalate in your gut so less of it reaches your kidneys. That might mean eating a small serving of a higher oxalate vegetable alongside a bit of yogurt, cheese, or a calcium-fortified drink, if those fit into your overall plan. The timing matters. They really do need to be eaten together to get that benefit. If you've learned something new today, or if you're starting to see your vegetables through a clearer, more kidney-aware lens, let us know by tapping the like button. It helps more seniors with kidney disease find this kind of practical content, and it tells us to keep making videos that translate complicated kidney science into simple steps you can actually use. If you're new here, welcome to the Kidney Keys. Our goal is to turn confusing, sometimes scary kidney advice into small, understandable choices you can make, one meal at a time. But before we wrap up, I want to remind you, this video is a starting point. It's a map, not a final set of orders. Your kidney journey depends on your CKD stage, your latest labs, your medications, your heart health, your diabetes, your blood pressure, and your whole body, not just your kidneys. So before you decide to cut out or reintroduce artichokes, celery juice, eggplant, Swiss chard, rhubarb desserts, winter squash, rutabaga, or sweet potatoes, bring this information to your nephrologist or renal dietitian. You might simply say, I watched a video that talked about these 8 vegetables and kidney disease. Can we look at my labs together and decide which of these are okay for me, in what portions, and how often? Knowledge is power, but guidance from your healthcare team is wisdom. Together, they can help you protect your kidneys while still enjoying food. Now, we would be honored to hear from you. Which of these foods surprised you the most today? Have you ever noticed your lab numbers change when you started or stopped a particular healthy vegetable? Share your experience in the comments below. You may never know how many people your story will encourage. but I promise you, it matters. And we truly do read every single comment. If you'd like more videos about what really supports your kidneys, from drinks and snacks to daily habits and lab tests, hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications so you don't miss the next one. And if you're worried you might already be missing early signs of kidney trouble, or you just haven't felt like yourself lately, I want you to watch the video that's on your screen right now. In it, we walk through common symptoms of kidney problems and what to do if you start to notice them. Click that video, keep learning, and keep taking small, smart steps for your health. Thank you for spending this time with us on the Kidney Keys. Stay informed, stay encouraged, and as always, stay as healthy as you can, one thoughtful choice at a time.